Aha. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's AIAA Los Angeles Las Vegas section. Very special meeting. We have two distinguished speakers today for very exciting uh, topic for bright future for aerospace and for mankind. So the first speaker, actually they were kind of talking between, but officially the speaker, the first one will be Professor David Hyland, and as you see online, Professor David Hyland is a professor emeritus in aerospace engineering and also adjunct professor of physics in College of Science, and also the Weisenbaker Chair of Engineering and Director, Space Science and Space Engineering Research in Texas A&M in Texas. He's also a president of Augusta Quantum Electrodynamics Incorporated. He's presenting online. Then we do have Mr. Sean Boyke here in person. And Professor Hyland is a distinguished professor. He's from MIT, and he served in the area of re-entry system technologies and spacecraft control at the MIT Lincoln Library for 14 years until 1983. He then led an advanced technology group at the Harris Corporation as senior scientist until 1996. In the same year, he joined the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor as professor and the chairman of the Aerospace Department during this time. This department research activity increased threefold while he was there. He went to Texas A&M University in 2003 as Associate Vice Chancellor of Engineering, and also Associate Dean of Research Administration. Dr. Hyland also served as Royce E. Weisenbaker Chair of Engineering, Professor of Aerospace Engineering, Adjunct Professor of Physics, Director of Space Science and Space Engineering Research, until his recent retirement from Texas A&M in August 2017. In September, Dr. Hyland established Augusta Quantum Electrodynamics Incorporated. He is continuing research interests including advanced RF systems, nanotechnologies for power collection and the transmission, and the quantum process for novel distributed imaging system and advanced propulsion. So without further ado, let's welcome Professor David Hyland. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. Well, to begin with, the Power Star concept was developed in 2015. And at the time I said that it was so new it's scarcely noticed, and so old it's almost forgotten. Since then, 4 patents, both US and Japanese, have been awarded for this invention. Also, since then, we became aware that Power Star was also a very potent weapon. And indeed, this is a realization that greatly increases the urgency for its rapid development, enabling essentially a shield against global war. This aspect will be discussed in the last section of my presentation. Returning to its application for solar power satellites, we find that Power Star is capable of performance that outshines all previous SPS concepts. Previous concepts involved gigantic, complex, articulated structures containing numerous, perhaps thousands of moving parts, requiring numerous launches, and on-orbit fabrication and construction, involving serious dynamic stability issues for such large structures. Power Star combines very new and very old technologies to obtain the simplest possible structure. No moving parts except electrons and photons. One launch vehicle. A 1 kilometer system can fit into several existing launch vehicles. And They involve no on-orbit construction and are inherently dynamically stable and with considerable robustness with respect to damage and so on. So anyway, these abilities stem from a combination of both new and old technologies. So I'm going to discuss the new technology first. And that amounts to basically printing things on flexible membranes. Okay, and what the center
Hi,
of
sir. Any
attraction.
way to put that in presentation mode, please, so it gets bigger? We don't need to see the slides on the left.
I'm sorry, what? What
Can
did
you
say?
put your PowerPoint in presentation mode? That'll make it full screen. We don't need to see the little slides on the left and left. You do. It'll just help us out on this end, perhaps.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yep.
Oops, wait a minute. I got a security alert.
Sorry.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
There we go.
Well, actually,
Lovely. Thank you.
okay. All right. Well, I'm still getting all our faces on my screen. We'll work with that. Yeah. So the fundamental component of the Power Star is what we call solar microwave fabric, and this is something in which solar collectors and microwave transmitters are printed on a thin fabric, probably in a randomized pattern if the solar cells and patch antennas are not overlapping. And these solar collectors and transmitters are combined in local modules such that we have, as will be explained later, no high voltage power distribution systems necessary. The fabric collects solar energy and then powers microwave antennas, and then forms beams to descend the power beams toward the Earth, thus producing power for the rectennas on the ground, and using an entirely different, localized set of controlling systems. There are two modes of operation. In the passive mode, a cooperative target beams a low amplitude beacon to the Power Star, and that is used to achieve a high antenna gain, so that the Power Star beam actually shines most of its
question,
radiation.
Dave, our screen over here only shows the solar microwave fabric. It doesn't show any of your beaming, any of the rectenna. We've never moved from screen slide number, whatever we are.
I think he's still in those bullets on the bottom.
Oh, he's doing those. Oh, sorry, buddy.
So, okay.
No, I mean, I'm not 100% tracking either, but no, I think.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Actually, so in the passive mode, basically, we're using the retro directive power transmission algorithms. Okay, and basically is triggered as essentially triggered by low power beacons situated on each of the rectennas. Okay, we'll get into that in more detail in a minute. There's also an active mode in which the fabric, or rather the balloon, emits a low power isotropic signal and uses that to detect any intruders in its workspace, shall we say, and then uses that any kind of return to illuminate the intruder and likely, especially at the distances of only a few hundred kilometers, likely vaporize the intruder. Okay. Okay. So then, let's see. That's part of the new technology, and I'll change the. At least I thought I was going to change the. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, all our faces are on the right side of my screen. But anyway, here's some more detail. Basically, we have a sort of sandwich that entails, at least the first early design. We have a substrate layer, that's the skin, basically. And on top of that are solar cells and microwave patch antennas. And for the Power Star application, the solar cells and transmitters occupy the external surface.
They be co-populated?
Yeah, we can co-populate it with a more sophisticated design where you have transparent transmitters on top of the solar cells, so that both kinds of devices are occupying the entire surface area, the external area of the Power Star. And you'll note that there's transceivers on the interior surface, and those are intended to permit us to achieve power regardless of the direction of the sun, and we'll get to that in a little bit. And at the outset, we assumed solar cell efficiency of only 1% to 2%. I mean, this is back in 2014 or something like that. Near term, though, we favor looking at 10 to 20%. Okay, and we've looked at substrate materials extensively, patch antenna efficiencies with thicknesses that can go to, say, it depends on the precise lambda, but we can probably produce 3 microns thickness for some of these elements of the sandwich. And basically, once the printing process and the algorithm and the roll-to-roll manufacturing are set, we can basically churn this out like wallpaper. Again, roll-to-roll manufacturing. Okay, so next slide. Now we have the old technology, which is this so-called echo satellite technology. And these are, of course, very large balloons coated by aluminum to transfer by reflection radio communications. The satellites were made of 13 micron thickness mylar film coated with a 0.2 micron layer of aluminum. The special folding techniques were devised to minimize the stowed volume as depicted on the left-hand side of the picture. So a very clever folding technique was used to then take its residence within a small spherical canister, which on orbit is then opened for deployment of the balloon. The history is that the first Echo 1 failed because of a launch vehicle failure back in 1960. But at the same year, Echo 1A was launched successfully and lasted from 1960 to 1968. Echo 2, which is the largest Echo satellite at 41 meters diameter, was launched January 1964 and burned up in the atmosphere June 1969. This is an old technology, but it is a really a big step in this kind of possible area. The balloon fabrication, of course, starts with generating the fabric, and for the Echo satellites, it was produced as meridional sectors or gores, and these are simply joined to produce a spherical balloon. And there are 4 stages of deployment here. So when we get the canister in orbit, the lid pops off and the balloon shoots out sort of like a party snake. And then you have the sun warming up the balloon, and that triggers that triggers a sublimating powder, which inflates the balloon. And needed only 1 to 2 pounds pressure to do that inflation. So you have very compact packaging and deployment, one compact container, 1 launch vehicle. Okay. Now, regarding deployment, it's the Echo 2 that we want to emulate most closely, because, for example, in the Echo 1A, the powder was applied directly to the surface, the inner surface of the balloon, and that caused problems that produced deleterious stress concentrations. So what we want to do is use the Echo 2 improved inflation technique. And this again requires a sublimating powder, but it's all contained in these pillows that are attached to the inner surface. And again, when exposed to the heat from the sun. The pillows inflate, but they produce they introduce the inflation proceeds by the powder getting squirted out of these small holes, and that homogenizes the air inside the balloon, and prevents these trapped pockets of gas. Whoops. All right, and in the Power Star, as an echo to a metallic grid for electric ground is embedded in the skin to yield at and it's designed to yield at the inflation pressure. The yielded grid rigidifies the structure, and by the way, mitigates the damage from high-speed debris. Then after inflation, one of the pillows is ruptured, evacuating the balloon and making it an empty shell. Okay, and then we can put all these things together. And let's see. So first of all, there's the Power Star on orbit, and it has the solar cells and patch antennas printed on its surface. In the original idea, it would be a case that the solar cells and transmitters do not overlap. I can't show you the this, but because we can't see the whole picture. But in any case, there's up here. There's of course a picture of the sandwich layering going from the outer surface, which contains the solar cells and transmitters, and a pattern of transceivers on the inner surface. Okay. And then you might think, since the Power Star is indeed a sphere, that it would operate as an isotropic radiator, sort of like a radar. But if that were the case, almost all power would escape to empty space, and very little would be deposited in the rectennas. To give the Power Star sufficient antenna gain, we use retrodirected power transmission, which in its simplest form is just phase conjugation. Okay, and this is a well developed technique. Each rectenna, now looking at the map of the Earth here, has a low power beacon, also called a pilot, that transmits to the Power Star. So that's in the beacon radiation. It goes toward the Power Star. Okay, and then what happens is that the going up to the sandwich here. In each patch antenna, there's a local analog circuit that receives beacon radiation. it then amplifies the waveform using the power injected to it by the solar cells. And in a sense, it amplifies this amplified waveform is then transmitted back in reverse time. Effectively, it makes each transmitter look like a corner cube, okay? And that is the principle, but behind all this in terms of getting a good antenna gain, because every little bit of the surface of the power star now is then emitting amplified wavefronts that duplicate the wavefronts that were produced and received from the Rectenna beacons, but sending it back. So that's why we show these, the microwave power then is in fact delivered directly to each Rectenna. So I'd like to illustrate this with a simulation. Let's say that on the left-hand chart, we say that this vertical line is the ground, okay, the Earth's surface, and we have 3 beacons spaced like this, and they're emitting a low amplitude signal. And by the way, each pixel on the spherical surface of the power star is a separate recorder. It's effectively well, the effect of the phase conjugation is simply that you're in effect recording a time series on each element of the spherical surface, and then playing that back simultaneously, playing it back in reverse time. And what you get is wavefronts that are emitted from the power star with conjugated phase, and those wavefronts are going to have the same geometry as the incoming ones. And to make that clear, first of all, in this presentation, we simply let the 3 beacon waves finally get to the power star. And then we turn the beacons off just to make sure that we don't clutter up the diagram too much. And we let each little pixel here operate just as the microwave transmitters would operate. And so now you get a much higher amplitude beam going in the opposite direction toward the ground. When it gets to the ground, you'll see that in each case, there are 3 concentrations of power on the ground. And they are smack dab in the middle of each of these rectennas. And notice that if you had, you can have many more possible beacons and get the same effect. So now you have, now you can see that not only is the the gain design quite valid. It's also adaptable to different beacon signals and locations. Okay, so so going forward now, the this is all about localized power distribution. There are many problems with some SPS concepts involving excessive high voltage power and so on. And this is how we handle this in a way that doesn't require, well, in a way that you can absorb power from the sun regardless of its orientation relative to the beacons, okay? And so each little module now has a very simple algorithm to do this. And I explain it by let's say we divide the surface area into 4 sectors. So let's say sector SB is one where the external surface is illuminated by both the sunlight and the beacon. In that case, the external solar arrays power the local exterior transmitters, okay? And then SB tilde is a surface illuminated by the sunlight, but not the beacon. And in this case, the external solar arrays pump power through the thickness to the transceivers. So these then radiate, and the radiation is then received by the interior transceivers of sector S tilde B, whence their power is transmitted across the thickness to the external transmitters, thereby, in effect, you might say, making SB tilde partially transparent, okay? And then, of course, we have S tilde B, the external surface is exposed to the beacon radiation alone, but it's then powered, the external patch antennas are powered by the transceivers on the interior surface. And then finally, of course, you have S tilde B tilde, where no light shines whatsoever, and everybody does nothing. Well, with this kind of scheme, each antenna transmits only if the beacon's radiation is received. Each transmitting antenna draws power from solar cells in its immediate vicinity within a few centimeters, or through the thickness of the skin from receivers on the inner surface of the skin. The power transmission through the skin traverses only a few centimeters, or just maybe a few microns. And each transmitter receives basically just a few watts. So it's a maximal utilization of simply a membrane area. The power distribution to each antenna is local, and there's no need for a complex management system. Strictly local architecture means robustness against partial damage. So a high-speed debris object might smash into our power star, destroy a few modules, but the rest of the device works as usual. So it's highly robust with respect to damage, and by the way, also has considerable survival potential in the face of extreme damage. Okay. So the power transmission capabilities. This chart shows the power transmitted to the ground with no overlap between the solar cells and patch antennas. And this is as a function of power star diameter, and shows results for 4 solar cell efficiencies from 1% to 20%. And it turns out that that even in the case of the efficiency of being 1%, the lowest, a 1 kilometer power star can produce a first SSP device, and produce the same performance as is noted in this this reference paper that came out in 2011, I believe. But in place of a great many launches required, this would give you a first active system in one launch. Okay. And a similar chart is shown for the case where we have transparent patch antennas, and which means that in effect the solar cells occupy the entire area in effect. And in this case, you see that a 1 kilometer power star can deliver 200 megawatts. Okay.
That's like a smokestack along the coast. Each smokestack is 1 megawatt.
Right. And we would like, of course, it's very likely that we could send several 200 megawatt 1 kilometer power stars using our latest rocketry.
And then you'd say, I'm scared of you.
That's right. Anyway, now this shows the stowed diameter of power star as a function of the inflated diameter, plus the payload fairing diameters for 3 existing launch systems. Both mass and dimensions are adequate. And again, the first launch is optimized at 3 1-kilometer power stars. So here's a summary of the concept. Basically, it's using membrane surface entirely, as opposed to concepts that almost always seem to use a surface area to collect solar radiation and turn it into power, connected to a high voltage cable system to bring the power to the transmitters. But we don't need to do that. The power flow always goes from inside to outside. So its structure is extremely simple and can be launched in a lot of launch vehicle payload envelopes. It can gather solar power from any directions without slewing or structural motion. It has no moving parts. It can optimally approximate any desired power scheme on the ground. There is no in-space assembly or robotic assembly. It has no control structure feedback. It's guaranteed dynamically stable. The operation of the phased array can be severely damaged, but the system can still retain some level of performance. And I believe that this entire scheme saves us a great deal of expense, as long as we start working on some of the existing technologies to put together the component technologies that already exist. Now, an extended application, one that we didn't think of at the outset, but placed at Geo, PowerStar can easily be designed to create power densities on the ground that are safe for humans. But if an intruder should approach within just a few 100 kilometers, PowerStar can be run in active mode and irradiate the target with enormous power density. Okay, and
bye-bye space debris and bye-bye enemies.
yes. Yeah, so this is the normalized power distribution on the ground. And yes, it looks a lot like a square Jink function. And by the way, in a AIAA meeting, I presented a paper that has just about all of the calculations that I've shown you here. In fact, more than that.
And that can be
this is a very detailed calculation, but it turns out to be rather simple. Anyway, and unfortunately, in my slide, I can't see the notations on the right, but what they show is if at 36,000 kilometers, the power level, the power density at the ground is 1/10 of the sun being 1 kilowatt per square meter. Then in 1,000 kilometers, we get a spot that's half a meter and has a density of 130 suns. So it's possible to get to create really hot spots on folks you don't like. And one of the main characteristics of this invention is that it's basically its properties of operation are emergent, and that guarantees some self-defense capability. Now, let me just say that PowerStar has a lot of different technology components, but they all exist right now in some measure. Certainly flexible membrane materials. People have printed solar cells on flexible membranes, printed microwave patch antennas and electronics in combinations of these, and have developed roll-to-roll manufacturing for each case. And then there's the Echo 2 technology that has already been developed long ago. But the uniqueness of PowerStar is not due to its component technologies. It's due to how they are combined. And by the way, the patents, the Japanese patents, at first they, as you know, there's a reluctance on their part to grant patents to foreign nationals, and their examiners first said, "Oh, this is not a true invention because the component technologies are all existing." But then we came back and said, listen, the operation of PowerStar is an emergent effect of numerous simple elements acting individually. And this produces enormous, shall we say, anti-fragility and robustness and the possibility of self-defense.
Can I add on that? So what he means is, for us military people, survivability, vulnerability, say something smashes through it, you still got the rest of it, any other area. It doesn't have to be round either. It could be any shape it wants to be out in outer space. It's omnidirectional, right? Like God. So
well, but within well, okay, but if you crumpled up the surface badly enough, it would start to degrade, obviously.
Yeah, you can't cover yourself with yourself.
But even so, starting from a sphere, you might crumple up a portion of the sphere, but the phase conjugation technique would still unravel that and send back the data, or the power, I should say, to the active rectenna. So yeah, there's a great deal of possibility here. And again, this all works with a very, very simple algorithms that are, it's sort of like an ant algorithm, as people say. So you have a lot of very simple components that operate all by themselves. But in operating by themselves, they make the whole system operate at a much more advanced level. That's what I'm getting at. Okay, so anyway, yeah, they objected to this at first, but the Japanese had to grant our patent because it was so so compelling. They realized they had to do that. Okay. Now there's various things you can do. In active mode, let's say, all of PowerStar's microwave transmitters emit a low power signal to create a nearly isotropic emitter. And when the space debris or an enemy missile approaches, the radar return signal fulfills the role of the pilot beacon. And so again, the retrodirective transmission works again. The star emits its high power beam on the approaching threat.
If it's not recognized.
It doesn't have to be recognized, but there are possibilities there too. And then you can do things like debris clearance, an actual boost. And here I'm not talking about the case where the PowerStar beam is so intense that we're going to vaporize these guys. It could be something much less. But in fact, all we're including here is the effect of radiation pressure. Okay, there's not even a ablative reaction on this. So it's a very conservative estimate of how fast you could take a bus-sized object and stay out at 1,000 kilometers and degrade the orbit to clear out the debris. And then by the same token, you could, with a slightly different orbital geometry, boost a system that you want to get to higher orbit.
Like our space station that's falling out of the sky.
That's right.
I mean, 2024, they got to evacuate it. 2028, it's supposed to burn out. We could have these tow it back to a higher orbit at any place in any time we want to. Great way to solve that problem and keep using it longer, right? We want to do that.
That's right. Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, and notice that if you're doing debris clearance, you can see obviously that the debris altitude is going to zero somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,600 hours. Mm-hmm. Well, the effect of clearance, though, on the altitude of the PowerStar raises its orbit, and then vice versa. If you're boosting, you're going to lose altitude, which simply indicates that in fact the PowerStar can operate as a photon rocket. It can boost itself.
Awesome. And you can relay to each other, right, Dave? You can relay one to another?
Yes, you could.
So you could stack up all the power in the world onto it, into one place you want to put it. That comes into play later on. Thanks, Dave. Sorry about you.
Okay. And then, of course, there's the rapidly deployable power generation air missile defense. And say you got a tough forward operation scene that's out there in the wild blue yonder, and you need a power source. Well, you just take these rolled up rugs,
which are on the ground over there.
Yeah, put them down on the ground, and you've got your power station. Using power direct from the solar cells or another source, you could operate the beamforming in active mode again. And you could use these to irradiate the target, sense return, and use as a beacon signal. And of course, then the beamforming proceeds as described for Power Star.
So
In this case, oh yeah, go ahead.
if I was like my brother James Wimberly, in charge of the biggest base in the world, he would love this as a base protector. So if any Air Force person's ever come out of San Antonio, then you went through his base. He was in charge of all three. So if he had these anywhere he was at any military base, he could actually help protect the base itself and create the energy right then and there. You don't need power lines. This is it. And it's a protection system, perfect base protection. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Dave. Didn't mean to bother you.
Oh, okay. And then, you know, thing is that it's conceivable that once the Power Star technology is developed, many Power Stars can be placed in suitable orbits to disable ICBMs in any stage of their flight paths, including launch. And the 4 Power Star patents are sort of like a shield against global war. I mean,
Yeah.
they sit there ready to be picked up. But who shall pick up the shield?
So if China makes it first, we're going to be subservient.
Yes, we must pick it up first. Otherwise, our adversaries may do so and proceed to either bully us into submission or annihilate us with suffering no retaliation. And so, as my last chart, I guess, is a recommendation. Again, we list the existing technologies, and since they exist, we know we have plenty of existing expertise in them, and we're certainly in a position to assemble a multidisciplinary team, assemble and test the printing program combining the 4 layers of Power Star. And incidentally, this is almost the only thing that's really needed is to be able to print all 4 layers, not 1 or 2 or 1, 2, 3, but all 4. Okay. And we can assemble and test
on a plane?
Pardon me?
Could this be put on as a skin of
Yes.
Skin on a plane?
Yes, an aircraft skin. Yeah, of course it is.
Oh yeah.
I even show an image of it. We'll get to that later.
And you know, we assemble and test the roll-to-roll manufacturing. The balloon construction, of course, is fairly well known, and we package for launch, and of course construct rectenners on the ground. And then I would be concerned with the launch and development of testing of the Power Stars. And I'd like to start with a launch and deployment of 1 kilometer Power Star, approximately in a 1,000 kilometer circular orbit. And while in that orbit, we test its self-defense capabilities, test it against missiles and deliberately exercised debris. And then, assuming it survives, we can align the power beam to align it against the orbital velocity and make it ascend to geostationary orbit. So we can actually use the Power Star photonic rocket, shall we say. Whoops.
It wasn't me. It
Ah.
wasn't.
Okay.
I guess we're stuck. Oh, there you go.
Okay, wait a minute. Sorry. Yeah. And then we test the power transmission to several rectangles and then proceed to deploy multiple power stars for both space, in space power and anti-missile defense. And that's all I have to say. I guess I've said enough.
Hi. Can you zoom me up? Guys, what you just seen, I can go through all this, but we ran out of time. I have to say something extremely important that concerns me. Are we on yet? Tell me when we're on. Okay. So yeah, we need to supply the entire world the energy. Otherwise, we become the slave to the world. So if Russia or China beats us to the punchline, they're all going to be communists. It's World War III right there. We could stop World War III right here and have peace on Earth right now. So I think they just invented peace on Earth. Right? And I'll show you in detail later, but I don't have the time. So is this still recording with me, my voice? Okay. So on March 22nd, I'd like to show a solution, but the thing I have to warn you about, keep cruising, man. I got to get you to the warning because it's really, really coming up soon. Keep going. This is me?
Yeah, this is your slide.
Keep going. You got to go way down
Way
below.
back, okay.
All right. A long
Which
time.
side?
Right here I need. Right here. Okay. This is very important. Sorry, guys. I'm going to run through this as quick as I can. I'll put the link with the video. I'll put all the slides online. I'll put them in Scribe. And the reason being, I'm very, very concerned. 3 days ago, the San Andreas Fault just cracked because some idiot shut off the water supply of our San Joaquin Valley, and the water's flowing into the tectonic plates. So 3 days ago, the San Andreas cracked. That's a very, very important thing. There's some video online in YouTube, you'll find it. And he mentioned, he was from the future. He said March 15th, a 750-foot wall, a tsunami comes and wipes out San Francisco. So we need a model of a 750-foot tsunami as soon as possible of it hitting San Francisco, March 15th. But the cool thing is, the Mariana Trench, that is the place that it actually cracked, he said in March 28 days later, March 23rd, they find new civilizations that they didn't know about in the Mariana Trench. Now, if there's any truth in that whatsoever, we're on a fast pace of getting there, super fast. So I want to say to all my Jewish people, I'm sorry you're not resting today. It is your day of rest. So forgive me for making you work and watch this. But if you're doing something good for mankind, you're not working. You're just doing good. So let's get the heck out of here. Next slide. I got to get you to something really important. So anyway, so this is what's really going on, okay? People don't know China. This is our nickname in China. People that live there know this. We're called Baizhu, which means fake morality of Western white left. Liberal pushing fake morality. This document right here proves that China aims weaponizing space to overcome and surpass us at any cost. And that could be disease, which they did already. It could be weaponizing, like TikTok weaponized. It could be bringing drugs in to kill all the young people. They could do that too. These are all theories and fantasies. Of course, they don't exist because none of this, what I mentioned, exists, right? So now, see this right down there? Don't be deceived. These billboards here show that China declares war. In Chinese, it says they're at war with the US. So whatever idiot said they're not at war with us, didn't read a billboard in China.
We're not
Right.
seeing what Paul is showing.
Right here?
No, Dave, Dave, you need to end.
Could you turn off the music, please?
I don't have it on. Is there music, guys? None of us
I
hear
can't hear what's being said.
None of us hear music, Dave. Does anyone online hear it?
It's not playing. It's not playing. anymore.
Yeah, it's on yours, not ours, Dave. Sorry.
And Dave, please turn
Oh, he says turn.
turn off your
Shut yours off somehow.
your share.
Shut your presentation off.
Stop sharing from your end.
Oh, he says stop sharing. Super Dave. Oh,
So
by the way,
sure, yes, okay.
thank
Yes.
you, Dave. Thank
Yes,
you,
I
Dave.
see. That's it. Okay, good. Good. All right. Sorry.
So I could click on this right now and prove that we're at war. Right there with China. That report. Go ahead, click it up
Okay, good. Let me,
if you want to.
I already did. Let me.
Okay. And if that doesn't work, this video is super. Okay. Yeah. Scroll up and let everyone see what it says. Okay. Everything in here explains that they are at war with us. Dave came up with a way to kick the enemy's butt on anything, in anywhere, at any time. Do you think that's important to America? Being able to subdue any enemy that causes threat to the world? Subdue them at any time, anywhere, before it even happens? It's pretty darn important. Let's go to this, what our enemy thinks of us. Give me what our enemy thinks of us. Okay, now there's only 2 laws in the Bible, guys, and I have to say this. It's love God above everyone and love your neighbor, okay? What does your neighbor think of you right now? I showed what China thinks of us, and this is what Russia thinks of us. Since we don't have volume capability on this side of the world in this system, do we?
Every step.
Oh, there we go.
Distorting historical truth, attacking our culture, the Russian Orthodox Church, and other traditional religious institutions in our country. Now look at what they're doing with their own peoples. They're destroying the institution of family, their cultural historical identity, and various perversions with regard to children up to pedophilia are accepted as a new norm, and priests are forced to recognize and officiate same-sex weddings. People can live however they want, and we in Russia have never intruded into people's private life, and we're not going to do that. But what we want to say is maybe they should take a look in the scripture, into the holy book of any great religion. It says that a family is a union between woman and man. And these holy texts are now being increasingly doubted in the West. The Anglican Church is now considering the idea of a gender-neutral God. What can we say? God forgive them. They don't know what they're doing.
Heard that before. Okay. Next one. I don't have time for the music. We're going to cruise on through. It does need all this music. On the real presentation, you want to hear the music because it all fits together. So, there. Say I'm pretending I'm not God. I never said I was. But I have to do this. I have to play the role of God, right? So go, right? Like Kramer. Okay, it's in my head. Got the role. Pretend I'm God. Just pretend. And I came and did a house call like a doctor. Okay. Mankind, right? Are you living up to your name? Are you kind to each other? How you doing on my 2 requirements? Because 10 was too many for you, right? If I had to sense and kill for a moment, doing with so that. Now I wanted to say, what's up? Tired of the purpose, tired of loving each other. You still haven't you killed enough of your neighbors yet? So I'm going to get you right here. We're going to go through all that war stuff and get right to the bottom to peace on earth. So let's go to the next one. Let's go to, so I've done a lot of things, worked at a lot of places. This one's cool. So, oh, this is my first airplane. I was design engineer at Northrop. My buddies over there, Northrop buddies. I did the eyebrow, worked in tool design, actually, doing the eyebrow and the bomb racks. That's my first one in 1985 at Northrop. And my last one was the center fuselage on the F-18 E&F. And I had to start that off at Northrop in right over here where they're doing, you know, the Joint Strike Fighter. So I got to do the center fuselage, which is huge. Had to break that down. So what was really cool, after I had to do a second shift, and all that was our British people helping us on second shift, which was great. And so when you see the Tom Cruise movie Top Gun, I can say every airplane out there came out of an assembly jig that we got to design. So that's a cool thing to do. Now, after I did that job, my buddy Jimmy and Joanne Arnaz, Jimmy, he got me a gig consulting to Lockheed Martin, but at the time it was only Martin Marietta. Samsung had an agreement with China to make 100 passengers, 100 airplanes. So my goal, or their goal, was to get wisdom from the West, us. How do you develop an entire airplane from scratch? How do you make a Boeing airplane company from scratch? So I went to Korea for 3.5 months with Randy and the team. Dr. Lee, who's in charge of it, they don't have vice presidents, they only have a president and directors. So Dr. Lee, he's the guy that invented the winglets for all airplanes. That's his design. And remember the Lisa, I think it is, the flying 747 with the open door for the laser? That's his invention too. So he started it out. And anyway, that was really, really cool. So I got to do all that cool stuff. And you can see that. And after I did that one, McDonnell Douglas Technical put me in. Amerigon was an they told me about they're doing an electric car in California. Well, they put me on it. So I ended up working on that, but they only had 3 people and none of them knew how to do a car. So I did, because, you know, I've done them. So I did the Saturn's EV4 from a piece of shit clay, had to make 50 cars from scratch, had to hire all the right people and everything, and had to get it done in 2 years. So in 2.5 years, it previewed at the Tokyo Auto Show. So for that $12 million to make Samsung's EV4, GM seen it at the Tokyo Auto Show and said, do you have all the engineering? Of course we did. Thank you, Dave DeLisio, for all your help. Anyway, they bought the whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel, for $1.3 billion. So $12 million betting on me to make them money sure worked out, didn't it? Okay, next one. I got to get you to the important factor here. Keep going. Oh, this is where I met Dave. Very important. So, very, very important. My mom died. I got this vision of exactly what we have to do to make an entire armor of God over the earth, and also how to control the weather and how to do, I'm going to tell you the theory of time travel, but you have to see a video first. Otherwise, you wouldn't understand it. It'd be over your head. So, and I told you I'm not God, but I'm going to explain something to you. So, yeah, Dave and I finished that book. It got published in the Defense Journal of Management. I met Dave and Ron Barrett at the 2013, and then we went to lunch, and I was mentioning space solar power, and I said, okay, I'll get you all the documents. So we went to lunch. I gave him the documents, and he invented this, which is kick-ass. He saved the world on that invention. So I had a really cool investor, Hal Wolf, who did blue, I forget it exactly. Anyway, he had $54 billion, and he called me right before I did another conference. He said, okay, you got your team leaders yet? I go, no, Dave's not retiring yet from Texas. Paul Werbos is still, Paul had serious health concerns and he beat it, so he got to live. Thank God for Paul Werbos. I couldn't get him either because once they retired, they all got sick. We almost lost Dave when he retired. So I'm glad they didn't. We didn't. Thank God we didn't. So there's so much to go on. Next one. Oh, by the way, all this is documented in a book I wrote because nobody would believe me in the future. Nobody. So I gave this document to our buddy, Dave. Okay, and so Bush, who's an oil man, obviously, said, okay, well, what if we do a war without oil? What are we going to do? So the end of is the one with the most energy wins. Okay, right here. I love this one. Crucial oil peaking is a problem that will occur within the present century. Now, it is a problem the DoD has to solve before the end of this century. The only question is, therefore, when and where will it begin to do so? Hey guys, it started today. Today is the day it started. We just shown you the answer. So go on to the next one, because very important. I have a lot to do in 4 minutes. Now, I thought this is cool. I started my book this way from our space shuttle guy, like Mike Massimino. Hi, Mike. Great guy. Steve, Mike Massimino did the most space walks out of vehicle spacewalk. So, but Steve Robinson wrote this, and I thought this is cool. The fire of the human spirit we carry is always going beyond, adventuring. What's out there? What's out there? So, here's the ultimate goal, guys. I only got 3 minutes left. We, as a species, we need to put power stars all the way throughout this entire universe, wherever we want to go. We plant them out there before we get there, just like you would if you were exploring, right? You put out drones, right? Before you go into a place, you put in a non-human species to view everything. So we put these power stars out there throughout the universe. Now, Alberto Conti is a buddy of ours. He's the VP at Northrop. Hi, Alberto. Anyway, him and Elon. Alberto is the one that did Google Space. Now, if you want to travel throughout the day universe, you want the people that have the mapping knowledge, right? There he is, Alberto Conti. And then, anyway, Elon can help with this because he needs to make all these things happen. So we plant all these power stars throughout here. We launch them, get them up there, and then we can go and start traveling throughout. My friends over at, I have a flying pig. It's the guys doing fusion. They're about 8, I think they can do it in 7 years, but they say about 8 years away. We put those on board these. Now we can travel because we don't have a sun if you're out of in between places, right? That's the only way you can do it is having power. So fusion, you got to bet on. TEA in Lake Forest or something, Mission Viejo, they know how to do it. Next one. Okay, we're gonna do all this. I can do all. We know we can do all this. Oh, by the way, when I say I mean I'm pretending I'm God. Go ahead. We don't have much time, guy. Okay, keep going. We went through this. Okay, these are all the things that are required in a space system. This we already went through. 200 megawatts, that's 200 smokestacks we can remove with one of them. That's pretty damn awesome. Next one. Oh, by the way, they went for $1. I'm saying 20 cents. Keep going. 130 suns? What if we increase the efficiency? More suns than that? How many suns do you need? Well, I did a calculation of all the energy that we're going to need in the future to 2100, I think. And I think it's like almost 10,000 power stars to take care of all the energy in the world in the future at 10%. So, and that chart's in here too. Keep going. But that's cool. We can do desalination from space, taming and controlling weather. I want to get to that, but we're not going to have time today. March 22nd, I'm doing another one to explain peace on Earth in detail. Next one, very important. Hit this right now, because this is happening right now. Blow it up as big as you can, because this is happening right now.
A well-known scientist released a book with information that could impact.
Since the San Andreas Fault just cracked 3 days ago, all of this is happening
We only learned
today.
about it a few years ago when it was declassified. But the CIA only released 57 pages of the original 284-page manuscript. And those pages have been, in the CIA's own words, sanitized. Now, why does the CIA think this book is so dangerous that they had to hide it from the public for 60 years and continue to hide most of it? Well, it's because the man who wrote it describes the end of the world. In 1966, former McDonnell Douglas engineer Dr. Chan Thomas released a book called The Adam and Eve Story.
Get that thing out of there.
Might sound like he's being cute, but he's actually being literal. This book is about the end of the world as we know it.
Hey,
What's up?
is this one of those stories where you scare the hell out of us?
That fish is funny.
No. If I soil my bowl again, you got
That's like that Family Guy fish, right? Klaus?
You just told them.
Well,
Thomas presents evidence of a coming shift in the Earth's poles that creates a cataclysm. And Thomas says these pole shifts are cyclical, that on regular intervals, a disaster wipes out almost all human life, and we start over again in the Stone Age. He says we're actually the 6th advanced civilization to evolve on Earth. There may have been even more civilizations that have been here, but the further back you go, the harder it is to know for sure, because some of these civilizations occupy continents that no longer exist. Now, Thomas isn't the first scientist to publish this theory. In 1958, almost 10 years before the Adam and Eve story, Charles Hapgood published The Earth's Shifting Process.
I'm going to sit down
Earth
and let you watch it because it's important.
This theory says that sometimes the Earth spins really fast and the continents are rearranged. When Hapgood proposed the idea of continental drift, it was called pseudoscience. But Hapgood had his supporters. In fact, Albert Einstein wrote
Spin my Earth a little bit.
books. Now, of course, we know that Hapgood was right. The continents do move. They drift apart and collide together over and over again, and have done so for almost 4 billion years. Pangaea was the supercontinent that broke apart to form the land masses that exist today. But before Pangaea, there was a supercontinent, Gondwana, which existed for 400 million years. Before Gondwana, there was Panotia. Before that, Rodinia, Columbia, Atlantica, Arctica, Kennerland, Ur, and Valbara. These were all supercontinents that eventually broke apart and reformed. After working with Einstein and a few other scientists, Charles Hapgood released the book The Path of the Pole as an update to his previous theories. In this book, Hapgood suggested that the Earth's poles are constantly moving. Again, this piece of pseudoscience was eventually proven true. Hapgood believed that a pole shift between 15 and 40 degrees occurred around 9600 BC, or 11,600 years ago. Younger try us. Now, the Piri-Reis map is something that has baffled scientists for hundreds of years. On the Piri-Reis map is the continent of Antarctica, but Antarctica wasn't discovered until 1820, and Piri-Reis claimed the information on his map came from much older maps. But Charles Hapgood was right, and the Earth's axis was shifted 15 degrees from where it is now. Antarctica wouldn't be completely covered in ice. Hapgood believed an Ice Age civilization, long forgotten, mapped the coast thousands of years ago. Though many of Hapgood's theories have proven to be true, the Ice Age pole shift is still controversial. We do know the poles shift over time. We also know the continents drift over a very long period of time. But Dr. Chan Thomas, in his book The Adam and Eve Story, says the shift happens in less than a day. Chan Thomas describes in detail what this will be like, and it's worse than any Hollywood disaster movie ever conceived. Far worse.
There was no T in the middle. Oh, yeah, get rid of this guy as soon as you can.
Chan Thomas begins his book with a chapter that describes exactly what we'll experience during this pole shift event. But before we get into it, now might be a good time to hit pause and grab fresh underwear.
listen to him when he says that.
With a rumble so low as to be inaudible, then fueling into a thundering roar, the earthquake starts. Only it's not like any earthquake in history. In California, mountains shake like ferns in a breeze. A mighty Pacific rears back and piles up into a mountain of seawater more than 2 miles high. It starts its race eastward. A wind attacks, shredding everything in supersonic compartment. The mountain of Pacific seawater follows the wind eastward, burying Los Angeles and San Francisco as if they were but grains of sand. Across the continent, a 1,000-mile-per-hour wind wreaks unholy vengeance everywhere, mercilessly.
Here's why there's such violent wind. The Earth spins about 1,000 miles per hour.
Note that.
Because everything is spinning together. The land, the water.
That's 1,000 miles an hour.
Says that when the pole shift happens,
What if you go faster than 1,000 miles an hour? Backwards. What happens?
In many places, the Earth's molten sublayer breaks through and spreads a sea of white, hot liquid fire. In a fraction of a day, all vestiges of civilization are gone, and the great cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Dallas, New York, Boston, are nothing but legends. Barely a stone is left where millions walked just a few hours ago.
Now think of what would happen if you were in a car going 1,000 miles per hour that suddenly stopped. Now think of what would happen if a large city going 1,000 miles per hour suddenly stopped. Skyscrapers would collapse. Millions of people would be thrown around like they were in a food processor. Very few people would survive that. But survivors are the unlucky ones, because moving across the country at the speed of sound is a 2-mile-high wall of water, mud, and debris.
South America finds the Andes not high enough to stop the violence. In less than a day, the entire continent is burned by molten earth fire, buried under miles of violent seas, then turned into a frozen hell. Everything freezes: man, beast, plant, and mud in less than 4 hours.
When the shift happens, the land on Earth stops moving, so the sun stops moving in the sky. That means one side of the Earth is going to get really hot, and the other side really cold. A temperature drop of 180 degrees. That means even the warmest parts of the planet are going to be 80 degrees below zero. Everything is frozen solid within 4 hours.
Europe cannot the Alps, Pyrenees, the Urals are sunken and heaved even higher when the wall of seawater strikes. Western Africa and the sands of the Sahara vanish. The Fury marches on for 6 days. During the 6th day, the ocean starts to settle. The Bay of Bengal Basin, just east of India, is now at the North Pole. The Pacific Ocean, just west of Peru, is at the South Pole. New ice caps begin to form in new polar areas. Greenland and Antarctica, now rotating equatorially, emerge with verdant tropical foliage.
Thomas is predicting a 90-degree shift to the Earth's axis, basically turning the planet on its side. The poles move to the equator, and the equator moves to the poles.
New York lies at the bottom of the Atlantic, covered by unbelievable amounts of mud. Of San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, Dallas, and Boston.
You're killing me, man.
Adam and Eve, Atlantis, Mu and Olympus, and Jesus joins Osiris, Ahura, Zeus, and Vishnu.
In the first chapter of his book, Dr. Thomas paints a terrifying future. But how likely is it? In the next few chapters, Thomas goes on to not only prove his pole shift is possible, that it's happened before and will happen again very soon. In fact, there are signs that it may have already begun.
You're gonna have to zip through this one. Okay.
Abrahamic religions have Noah's flood. The Mayans have the Huracan flood, where the word hurricane comes from. Ancient Hawaiians had the Nuku flood. The Sumerians wrote about a flood in Gilgamesh. Europe, Asia, Pacific Islanders, and native tribes from all over America. They all talk about a great flood that cleansed the earth so civilization could start again. Now, one myth is just folklore. 2 myths are a coincidence. 40 flood myths? This starts to look less like a myth and more like actual history. Now, on this channel, we typically associate great floods with the end of the last ice age, the Younger Dryas. And core samples provide solid evidence that this happened. But what's interesting is, Thomas said the last great flood wasn't 11,500 years ago, but 6,500 years ago. Now, in the 1960s, there was very little, if any, proof of this. But a few years ago, archaeologists found evidence of the Gunyu flood myth in China. Evidence of a great flood has been found in the Mediterranean and in the Black Sea. These discoveries put the flood between 6,500 and 7,000 years ago, more recent than the Younger Dryas, and right when Thomas says it happened. Chen Thomas provides the dates of other floods. The Younger Dryas is about 11,500 years ago. Before that, a flood 18,500 years ago. And this is exactly the time when the very land bridge went underwater. Before that, 29,000 years ago, which was the end of the Wisconsin glacial period. And before that, 43,800 years ago. But global floods aren't controversial. We know they happened. What is controversial is the claim that advanced civilizations existed before each of the floods. Mainstream archaeology and paleontology say the first civilization emerged in Mesopotamia 6,500 years ago. But what if that was just the last reboot?
You like your Batman movies?
Can we discuss Batman later? I'm trying to talk about the end of the world here.
Oh, that's why I keep interrupting.
Howard. When we look at the erosion around the base of the Great Sphinx, we see patterns that were formed by running water. Vast amounts of water moving at tremendous speeds. But if this is water erosion, that means the Sphinx was created before the last flood 6,500 years ago, which is before the emergence of the Egyptian civilization. Archaeologists hate that idea. And they really hate the idea that the Sphinx was built over But there's other evidence of a cataclysmal ocean, specifically of a great mud flood and a sunken continent.
Do you mean
I knew that was.
Kenny, is anyone still online or is it just us?
There's still a few. And some people want to ask questions. So they're waiting to ask some questions.
Yeah.
Need extraordinary evidence. In his dialogues, Plato famously introduced the book
Power Star.
The advanced utopian society that was destroyed in a cataclysm. If proof of Atlantis is found, it will continue to be considered a myth of land. But that won't and shouldn't stop people from looking for it. There's a geological feature in Northwest Africa called the Reshad structure, also called the Eye of the Sahara. It's about the right size and shape for Atlantis.
Your screen?
Plato described the city as concentric rings with a waterway flowing out. But even among Atlantis believers, there's debate about whether this is a man-made structure or a natural one. But what I find fascinating is near the Eye of the Sahara and all over the planet, you'll see large ripples in the landscape. Now on the ground, these look like rolling hills, but they're actually about 50 feet high, the size of a 5-story building, and they were caused by water, a lot of water.
This is one of the craziest things you'll ever see. These ripples, repeated ripples, in an area where there's nothing else like it. This is the fingerprints of the flood. Wow. The water here, Joe, the way to visualize this is to make the tsunami. Here, what you have to visualize is a tsunami sweeping over the land that's over 1,000 feet deep. It's sweeping down over this land at probably 200 or 300 million cubic feet per second, which is an inconceivable number.
But Atlantis isn't the only place lost to this disaster. On the other side of the world, we have another lost continent. This is called the Land of Mu. Mu is described by Augustus Lake John and later by James Churchward, both of whom translated very old texts from the Maya and India. Both of these cultures, on opposite sides of the world, describe a vast continent in the Pacific that reached Hawaii in the north, and as far south as Easter Island, and as far west that it almost reached the islands of Japan. James Bramwell and William Scott Elliott, both proponents of this theory, claim the continent was destroyed in a cataclysm 11,500 years ago. There's that date again. The Yonaguni Monument off the coast of Japan is said to be the underwater ruins of Mu. Namadal in Micronesia is considered to be the southern part of Mu. The site is full of structures made of enormous logs of volcanic rock. Nobody knows who built this or how, but their society was advanced. Just recently, the LiDAR imaging from the air shows that at one time, Namadal had an artificial irrigation system that could bring fresh water to residents all over the area. The eastern part of Mu is Easter Island, and there could be evidence of a cataclysm there. On Easter Island are the Moai statues, and you've seen these. It's lots of heads, about 1,000 actually. And most people don't realize that these statues have bodies buried deep underground. So there are two options. One, whoever built the statues first dug holes, then buried
There, how long is this?
80-ton statues.
It's almost over, right, Kenny?
Or two, the
Halfway.
statues were completely
Okay, we can stop now. Go to the next one. Stop. By the end of this, go to the next one. You need to watch it yourself, guys. I already went through this, but you need to know if something big is happening. So I want to show you this. This right here, someday you're going to see this in video. You don't need to put it on, Kenny. It'll take too much time.
Okay.
This spiral here is you need to know where you are in the entire universe at what time, right? So we know this based on this. We know where these are, right? So what if you had, say, the armor of God, 3 different layers of a power star system that sends energy to Earth all the time? Say if you had that over it, protecting it, and then with the radiating capability, you could actually, and then maybe fusion or some kind of storing capacity, and you could actually manipulate moving a planet out of the way if something disaster was going to hit your ass. That's how you could do this. So now it's time to do this. So you need to know. Oh, by the way, you gotta do this. I gotta make this statement because it's a fact, and anyone that can prove me wrong, go ahead, because it's impossible to prove me wrong. So Jesus turned to Peter and said, "Get away from me, Barack Obama. You are a dangerous threat to me." He's not. He's actually unveiling So here's his name. Here's where it comes from. So when we were mankind and we just became wandering around, and lightning hit a tree and it caused fire and it broke a branch. So Barak is the sound of lightning, right? Barak. And his last name is the thunder that follows. Obama or Obama. That's what everyone called it because that's what it is. So they thought it was scary because it could bring fire down from heaven, right? Because it's lightning. So that's basically what it is. So they say, so he's actually known as the bringer of light, right? And the bringer of light is also the same name as the devil. So, and I'm not saying Barack is not the devil. He united this world in a better way because he brought a black person as president. That united the world big time. That's a great feat for the world. But I'm saying that that's what his name was named after. That's all. So, on to the next one. Now, here's the big reason we have to do this. These guys right here, the big story, okay? Electricity share of the entire world up to 2040 or 2050. Sorry, guys. I've done this for a while, so some of my stuff, I'm going to talk fast because I know this by heart. Anyway, all of this right here, and all of this, and all of this, right there, that's like 10,000 satellites, right, to handle that. So that's why we have to do this. Next one, very important, Kenny. You got to stay with me on this one.
Yeah, I'm staying with you.
Okay, this is important. We're signed into this Paris Climate Treaty, but we could do this. Okay, so we go from losing one, right? And they only had 3. Look at that. So those would be in millions, probably. No, I'm sure they're in hundreds or thousands, right? I'm sure they're in thousands, maybe in billions of dollars, though. And then none of these would be necessary, guys. You do the Power Star. You don't care. Turn the spigots wide open. Flood the market with all the energy you have. Next one. We want to keep on that Paris Accord because we could do that if we made the Power Star. Other than that, you're starving yourself to death. This is what Dave already talked about. He says it's the surface that matters, dummy, not all the hardware to get you there. Next one. There. Here's the entire world's debt. Okay? This is how much energy you need. This is how much it costs. This is the value of energy on Earth. How are you going to address all these guys? I want to explain that, but I don't have time today. But we're going to zip through this. We don't want this to happen to us as we get closer to the sun at the end of our existence, right? We want to be able to push our planet away if you could. Dave just invented it. Go ahead. Now, this tells the world a lot. So, total at 2050 and the shortfall. All right. Look at the world's debt compared to being able to pay for themselves. And look at the hidden debt. And then exponentially change those. How are you going to pay for this? We just gave you a solution. But I have to change the monetary system too. Next one. So now I always warn about false beliefs and false alarms. Like, this one here, I love this book because it's true. And I have another one. It's about how climate panic caused trillions and hurts the poor and fails to fix the planet. Well, you just witnessed a way to fix the planet, and it's not going to hurt the poor. And it doesn't go just to the rich oil sheiks anymore. So now ocean rise is very important. If you want to know the truth, you just click on that one right there. My friends and brothers at NASA, this is the link. You can keep an eye on it all the time. I know where I live. You park your boat 30 years ago, the water at the high rise, at the solstice, it would actually be like 6 inches below the light. Now when at the high tides for both summer and winter, nowadays when it happens, it actually goes over the light itself. So there's no way an Army engineer or a Navy engineer would put it that way on purpose. So it is true. Next one. Everyone, so if you knew this right here, what the heck would you do? what you do, guys. You make a bunch of boats and floating islands, and you hook them all together, all over this water area, and you put this solar microwave fabric, which Kenny, can you show people on the ground what this looks like with the camera? Yeah. Okay, this is a solar microwave fabric. It's actually alligator and crocodile. You can walk on it, beat the shit out of it. This was invented by one of our professors in the Midwest, where I'm from originally. And he invented this with, some funding from China. So as soon as he got it up and running, China, the market didn't work for him, and China took it back to China. So this is China, which is good. They want to be our, by the way, China, we want your partnership on this. I need your help. I need you to supply us this. It doesn't exist yet. I mean, yours does right now, because we invented it, but it needs to work this way. We got to prevent, if this happens, we got to be able to survive from this. So that's why we have to work together on it. It's not something that it's your fault. No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. How about this? All of our fault. Now let's fix it. So I'm showing you how to fix this problem. Now this is an entire power system. It takes these, converts it to power, of course, the sun into photons, and then you can do AC, DC, any type of power output in the world that you need. Okay? All this in a little package. This should be, if you stretch this out, you can put it into like either a diamond. We don't know the shape of what each little sub-component for those separate singular, like he said, random patches. We don't know what the patch design is yet. So we need a model, whether it's pentagon, octagon, triangular. Like triangular is cool because that's what we did on the Hubble, or on the James Webb. This guy. This is what it could be, right? Or we could be the triangles that made them, right? We don't know. We need studies. Next one. Now, very, 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 very important. You watch between here and here. Do you guys want to see this? Because well, everyone's seen the movie. We all know that Europe gets super cold and all the hot places get hotter, right? That's the bottom line. Next one. All right, next one.
This is not a...
Oh, that one, yeah. Okay, so EMP burst, very important thing, especially for an upper atmospheric explosion. Like I said in a past presentation, that almost happened with a North Korean miniaturized device on a Chinese rocket launcher, went through the Panama Canal. We caught it and stopped it, and it was hidden underneath all those bags of sugar. Peter Pierce, God rest his soul, who had recently passed, he actually will mention this in some of his presentations, how we discovered it and stopped it from happening. But they could have just hit the button, launched it, put it over our head, and we'd be out of energy. And then within 1 year, 9 out of 10 people on Earth or on our area, in this area, would die. So we don't want that. This can prevent that. Next one. So a lot of people don't know this fact. Here's our ill wind. Who imports death? And what's it caused by? Pollution. That's an old one, right? I use this book right here. Best knowledge you can ever see is this visual. It's visual capitalist, and it actually shows every industry of everything in very well thought out charts with hard data and hard science, not the Fauci science where he says, oh no, you don't need masks. Oh wait, yeah, you need masks. Oh no, you don't need one, you need two. And then you need three. So this is real stuff, not the BS science that he claims he has, which is BS. Next one. Okay, another warning. Love your neighbor. That doesn't show love your neighbor. We can hover these things over. Come on, we're going to go to the next one. This is cool. We can hover over any of these with power stars. We can actually find the sweet spot of a missile immediately and vaporize it as soon as it launches. Immediately. Or you can put it overhead and let the shrapnel hit them. Or you can get it to a clearing when it's before it leaves the atmosphere or something, and you can vaporize it then. So all these things have to be figured out, and there is plans and maps to do that. Go on. Okay, so these are our existing things. I've done this presentation 2 years ago, Go on. Go on. I'm sorry, I had to duplicate. Keep going. Sorry, Dave did a very great job, and applause to Dave. Oh, by the way, do you see how how little that truck was and those people are? Go on, Zip. That 200 megawatts, it just blows my mind. 200 smokestacks are gone because of one? Go on. Yeah, 130 suns? And then if I had 10,000 of those, how many suns did we just create? Next one. This is the old systems. Next one. Dave talked this. Go on. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. And keep cruising, baby. This is in case you don't know the frequencies we're at. The best one that we know of is 5.8 gigahertz for transmitting electric energy. The guys at Raytheon know it better than anyone else on the planet. They're the only ones, them and Tesla are the only ones that done wireless energy transmission successfully very well. John Mankins knows exactly where they're at. As long as John's in the loop, love you, John. Wherever John's in the loop, he'll tell you the facts. He's our other NASA brother. Next one. Like he said, right there. How much interference from clouds and daylight? I was at a meeting, and I think we were talking lasers, that's why, or something. And he said 50% was lost due to clouds, and I'm thinking, really? No, it doesn't. Attenuation's nothing. Dave's right. That guy was wrong. Go on. So that's the basic concept of how it works. Go on. See, I had to put it on pictures so people look. Everything on my website, none of this is actually on the floor right there. What you're looking at there, which is alligator and crocodile proof, is right there. Now, this scrim, which could be that, is how you nuclear harden stuff. You know, 60 dB is your what everyone knows for a Faraday, right? 110 is how you make it invisible. So go on, everyone knows that. Go on. Example. For testing it, here's what we need when the flood happens. I'm going to explain to you because it doesn't exist yet. We need tops of boats with this material on it all the time. So that way, and we need to mass produce these at millions and billions, whatever. Where all that water is, each one of these needs a toilet and needs a way to, you need to self-support. You need desalination in it, which I have a friend that knows how to do that from seawater. We do desalination, you do water, communications, electricity, everything except oxygen, right? And then these, you need pods like this that come off a ship in case of a tsunami. But you need these just after everything's settled down and everything's cool. Have these for pleasure cruising, man. Can you imagine having your own boat, you cruise around and you have free energy and unlimited range that you want just by having one of those and this? This is pretty darn cool. I wish I had one. Oh, wait, I do. Go on. So we need those right away for rescue. My buddy who said, can we put them as skins? Because I've done 18 airplanes with my buddies, so us in Aerospace, you probably know me. That's what it is. But it doesn't have to be segmented like that. It would be the whole skin embedded into it as a composite hybrid, like we always do things. You know, instead of metal matrix composites, this is matrix composites. And then so here's evolution. Solar fabric right there. This is Faraday cage, bulletproof hardened. So what we do is we put like a Dyneema in it, or we could do an S2 glass, or you could do maybe a graphene matrix. You would actually get the best bulletproof fiber as your substrate. Okay, this guy right, well, in that other prior one. The substrate would be bulletproof. You have that and this stuff over it. It's a self-powered, bulletproof. On the future combat systems, I was doing systems engineering, leading that, and it was electromagnetic armor that we were doing. And this is electromagnetic armor in its best form right here. So what we do is we wrap all our fuel trucks with it. We spent more money air conditioning tents in the Iraq war than we did for the entire NASA budget. I've said this many times. You put Peltier devices inside these things. Now you have air conditioning and heating. Why don't we do that yet? Okay, I just told you what to do. Peltier devices. That's how we cooled our space suits, remember? So So we need to do this, protect our critical infrastructure, our things that we depend on, like fuels and being able to do things, EMP protection, communications back and forth. You can even have, say you touch somebody like this, they could be wearing another suit on the other side. This is Dave's idea and it's fantastic. And they touch you, you could see them touching you from the other side of the world by wearing a suit with stuff like this. And you could actually interact with each other. That's how kind of impact this could be. Oh, by the way, when you do this protected grid, say you do an entire power plant or transfusions, you find its susceptibility zone and vulnerability zone. Yeah, thanks for moving our Earth there, God. I don't think he used his finger though. He used his air, right? Blowing on it, God. Yeah. God pushed it by blowing, right, and whizzing it out there. So, anyway, so on these, if you're in this power plant, inside, underneath, you would actually have tons of LEDs embedded into them. And as you walk by, it would light up the section that you're in. So you can see clearly, only at that time and when you need to. Why don't we build those into it? Super easy to do, standard method. Then you go into, that's our evolution. And then we build these guys successfully. And the first launch is a minimum of three of them. So we have a plane and a decent reactive interactive system. And then, right, so you want 3 spaces in space, 3 of these in space, and then they, like we were saying, 100 kilometers. That's a monster. Elon, that's huge even to you with your Falcon Heavy, but it's doable, not impossible. But the first launch should be like, because we already did the 41 kilometer echo, let's do 100, right? Let's do 100 meter. 300 meters, launch them right away and beat the shit out of them, like we do on everything we design and build. And then it should be a competition between rivals. Each rival we have, China, Korea, India, everyone should try to make these. Because if you're going to start messing with weather, which I'm going to explain some to you guys very well, you need the entire world to work together on that. So hurry up, let's get to the next one. I'm trying to beat that March 15th tsunami in San Francisco, which I'm very, very concerned. Where in the hell am I going to go on that day? Oh, so this is what Dave was saying about TRL, technology readiness levels. All those technologies already exist. They're at a higher level than the integration of it, which is turnkey. Next one. I'm that quick. So yes, I use this at the end a lot. A global transformation. And our transformation, I know this is like the tree hugging motto. We bad oil, bad oil. Bad dog, stop it. Never be that way. Never, ever be that way. You need the oil because you need to produce as much as you can while you're here on Earth. Keep it running. Put that gas pipe back on, man. Finish that pipeline. You got to do it, man. Otherwise, you're in for a lot of trouble. Next one. We already went through this. Next one. Dave already talked this, which you guys know. This is part of the shield, the armor, okay? We talked how we can get rid of all this problem, right? You could float these by there. I remember our Space Force leader. Hi, guy. What was it, $500 per kilogram or something? Or no, I think it was $500 per kilogram. So what if you had, how big would it have to be to get you that? Plus it produces power after it wipes everything out. Put a number on that one. All your threats, it vaporizes it. Give me a number, what that's worth to you. Next one. Where do we start? All right. My brother's at Northrop again. I just love Northrop. I love Boeing. I love all our aerospace group, man. We've done spectacular things. I think I've worked at almost every one of them that's big. So anyway, we need to model the entire Earth like this with a bunch of power stars. We need to do a hypothetical models, right? We need to do modeling and simulation, and we need to look at as many years as NASA and NOAA have for the models of the Earth and the weather, and those become categorized threads, right? As you know how threads overlap and weave for zone. When you do modeling and simulation, people know what I'm talking about. We have to do that. Next one. So everyone on Earth should have one of these at their cities. Anyone working on it should have that. And then every person that works in that country should have access to put simulation models in it and ideas. And so they could just bounce these ideas off these three-dimensional models, and then they could do simulation on their own. Wouldn't that be cool? Having the whole world help you evolve to save your own world, right? In death. So we make the power star for this, keep these guys cranking. We protect critical infrastructure with protected grid. Regular InstaGrid, oh, what if the Saudis get mad and they shut us off of oil, Dave said. I wasn't allowed to talk Bible. I wasn't allowed to talk politics. No religion, no politics. It sounds like a John Lennon story. So I'm telling you this stuff anyway. Critical infrastructure gets protected grid. Every house in America gets exact that stuff right there. And then the coolest thing is Dave says anything that's not recognized as being friendly, like it has an associated added identification to it, like a satellite we didn't put there and it wasn't authorized by us, goes bye-bye, right? Same thing with power. I love what Dave said about power theft. Say somebody wants to steal power from you. If it's not in the overall arch of it, they don't get the power. Say you have threats in a city that's really bad and they're rioting or something. Click it off.
Yeah, Stan is asking when we can have this Q&A session.
Okay, let's do that Q&A right now, guys.
Did you want to kind of conclude it?
Yeah, I'm going to conclude with this. The new currency should be this. It should be a digital coin backed by the Federal Reserve. Everyone should be able to buy these. This one has a John F. Kennedy behind it, but it should be split. It should be a Kennedy on one side and Lincoln on the other. So Lincoln on the past, Kennedy into the future, with Space Force over the top. This should be the coin that we stay with America. Ooh, the Earth is flying fast right now. So, like I'm talking, right? So, and then inside of it would have your digital remembrance, right? Inside tells you exactly your finances for it, right? And this is your coin. And you can bet on it. Every country should have one. And those countries should have coins. And that coin itself should be something that they all compete with, right? You don't subdue to the government. You compete to do better. That's what we're here for, prosperity. So that's how you take care of that problem for finances. These are what we have to evolve better on everything in this power star. It is an advanced material. It is directed energy weapon. It is space technology and renewables. All of these things, all of this addresses here. Next one, Kenny. Go on, next one. We already know this. These are directed energy weapons right here. Next one. I'm going to fly through this because I got to show you everything before you can ask the question. Standard knowledge for directed energy weapons. Next one. This is the area that we're looking at, like the OPIR systems. Okay, this is evolution there. Next one. Again, if you went on to doing strategies, thank you, Paul Szymanski. All the strategies of looking at how do you evolve is explained right here. This is our existing systems. We need to do this, man. I love this. Semper Sitius, always faster. I think I just put the clockwork on. If we don't do it, our enemy will, and they'll wipe us out. Next one. Now I'm going to talk about weather. Finally. Okay, so what we do is we have this armor of God around the earth. Okay, with the angels. Each power star is an angel. All the fingers of them, as it comes out and does its work, are called angels. What you do? Yeah, we need to do all this. We need everyone's help to do this. Next. Oh, you need to see these things. Next one. I'm not going to do it here. So if we all know that the Earth only flies at 1,000 miles per hour, right? If I had this entire source of energy around it, and I'm traveling at the speed of light just about, because it's electronics, what happens if I'm on the outside of the Earth and I traveled faster than the 1,000-mile rotation? What happens? The other thing, and you know exactly where in the universe you are at exactly what time and date, and you know how to radiation-wise, move things around like a proton rocket. What if you had a whole army of proton rockets around your planet? Okay. Now, for weather, the atmosphere is only at a certain level, as we know. I'm not going to go into the details. Each one of these each power star is looking at this area. Say there's going to be a tornado formation. You knew about it. It's going to happen before it even happens. You actually start peeling all the large wind currents because you know you're ahead of them and you're behind them and you're above and below them. You can actually change that weather formation, convection and condensation. You can change it right there because you're overlapping. And next, did I show the frequencies? Oh, there's your magic numbers. Oh, this is impossible. We don't know that. Anyway, I talked this one. Oh yeah, leave this one here. We think we're the greatest thing on Earth and the greatest thing since sliced bread. Everyone, pretending I'm God, say everyone in the world that's listening to my voice right now becomes an American citizen. Right now, everyone on Earth is an American citizen. What happens? None of this communication could exist without America. No electronics, no communications. We couldn't get here today without that. My wife and I got married at Henry Ford's estate, and I remember Edison's, he had a separate room and used to make fun of him because he always worked at night, and he hated the birds waking him up, so he put a bunch of stained glass birds on the windows just to piss them off. That's a gentleman's practical joke in that era. So, and the reason I mentioned that is if those two people didn't exist on Earth, what would happen? So that's why I'm saying, look at where you really are. Now, how about this? Say we do the same coin and we do a school choice coin with the memory in it. And everyone can put their money, you could do union, which is government, or you could do school choice in a coin and invest your future retirement and your kids' future retirement on this, right? So I'm going to say, so what happens, and then so what you do, if you do the coin on school choice, then you tie up, here's how you have to do it. You have to tie the Department of Education with the Department of Corrections, and their goal is they get twice as much funding for every time they release a real prisoner that broke the laws of God, okay? You let them out of jail, or you correct them and reform them. That's the goal. So the goal here is to have no prisoners and a lot of educated people. The only way to do that is how do you control that with free speech and free liberty. I just told you how. Go on. If it was only America, you do that. It's not just America. If we're going to mess with weather, interplanetary changes, or proton rockets blasting through space, every citizen on Earth. So what we should do is we should do the Gateway Frontier. Thank you guys at Gateway Frontier. I think you're at Northrop now. And we need to build your entire assembly system. And we're going to call the New Jerusalem the Blue House because it's actually up in outer space. And that distance has 3 rings, just like Ezekiel's, right? So you move them like one of those Ezekiel gyros, right? Around inside of a protected. Now they don't have to be surrounding. You could have this power star solar microwave fabric with holes in it. So as these things keep floating around, it's just acting as like your phantom shield as you go through interplanetary, traveling. So next one. Oh, I would explain that later. Okay, so done, guys. Sorry if I took too long. I tried to blast mine because Dave's was super important. He invented it after we discussed it and stuff. So thank God for that. And here we are today. Today we actually unveiled peace on Earth. You guys can either do it or you can keep hating your neighbor, which breaks the law, the second law. So your choice now. Now on March 22nd, if March 15th is really the death day, It should be a quicker one. So here's my proposal. By next week, Donald Trump and Mike Lindell need to actually show the 100% proof of any type of. I actually seen those Lindell's videos. I have them in that, and I watched the entire activity and seen that they actually mapped out corruption to the max. And I'm sure it was predicted many years before, and they had it all set up that way. I'm sure Barbara Boxer had her hand in it too. So they need to. Trump needs to show the proof to the whole world, and the Democrats have to defend it before it even happens. And if they didn't defend it, then they have to sleep in San Francisco March 15th of this year and have like a DNC party, like, woohoo, we stopped Trump from running. He's never going to touch us again. And you're honest people and you don't believe in God, please, for the world's sake, go live in San Francisco March 15th. Because you never lied. You don't believe in God. It could never happen. And you're honest, right? That's how I conclude it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, there's one question was that do you have a lot of video links? Is it possible to put
Tons of them.
Put in like one page and so they can...
Yeah, I'm actually going to take those video links. Yeah, I'm going to put it inscribed, and I'm going to let everyone have access to the whole presentation. You can click on them anytime you want.
Put it on one page or 2 pages, not easy. That's one subscription.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
No problem. So, folks,
it has to pertain to the content that you're looking at. Otherwise, none of those links make sense. So, sorry, that's not smart.
I understand. I just relayed the question. So
that's all right.
Any folks online? Wrong. Paul, you are still there. Paul, you have any question?
Yeah, I'm here. FYI, hi, Sean. You and I connected 10 years ago, LinkedIn over something, Dan Rimmer, and then I asked a follow-up question. I hadn't gotten an answer yet, so I'm just letting you know you're 10 years late. But when you talk to the screen, just as a side, just for us out here on the World Wide Web, when you talk to the screen, I hear you. When you talk to the audience, you got to hold your breath and listen a little bit, FYI.
Oh, so I got to talk to this guys.
Pretty much. Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, he got the camera behind me. My mistake. I appreciate that.
So you asked, you stated that gentleman Lee invented winglets. Like I wanted to ask this an hour ago.
Oh, Dr. Lee, yeah. And he's in Samsung. In Daejeon, Samsung, they actually had the World Fair, R&D fair there. And he's actually over there. And it's actually South Korea's R&D center in Daejeon.
So what about Richard Whitcomb?
I'm sure I know, but on this subject, I do not. I'm not familiar.
I do. And so Richard Whitcomb invented winglets. And that was my senior thesis at Penn State.
Oh, no. Let me qualify this. He did the 747 winglets.
Okay, that's fine. He didn't create them.
No, you guys in NASA did too. So, but no, he only did that. The laser one. Is it called the Lisa? Is that what it's called? Yeah, and the 747 winglets when he did. That's who they. Thank you for correcting me and letting the whole world know who really invented it. That makes it even more valuable.
Thank you. All right. Oh, and I got to ask one follow-up question was, and you can answer this on Dr. Hyland. So if this is the end-all be-all to, keep us safe against the world, why are we telling it publicly?
Because you can't help, you cannot mess with the weather unless the entire world participates in it.
Okay. Got it. And then you were talking about how everything within 4 hours will be minus 80 Fahrenheit. But then you're talking about tooling around in the boat.
Oh, that's a protection boat. Yeah. Say if nothing happened, you'd have a self-powered boat. And then say something did happen, an emergency, like you got to get off the vessel and they got those orange ones that you've seen. You want something like that, that's self-sustaining. That's all.
Copy. If you respond to LinkedIn, we'll rendezvous for a beverage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. God bless you. And love you, neighbor. Love you all, neighbors. We're done. Oh, any other questions, please? I would love to follow up sooner on this, but we don't have the time. Is that correct? Oh, by the way,
you want to spend a little time
I can do it?
Yeah, you can. We still have time.
Okay.
But,
I'm going to jump.
Let's see if any more questions.
Any more questions? I can actually explain world peace right now.
There was a, sorry, somebody want to say something?
Yeah, what we'd have to do for world peace is we'd have to sign a world peace agreement on Good Friday this year, which would make the anniversary 10 years prior to the 2000-year anniversary of the murder of Jesus Christ.
There was actually a question by Mr. Martin McLaughlin, but I think it's more for Dave. Do you want to?
Yeah, Dave, go ahead. Ask him.
Have you looked, he left, but anyway, have you looked at Power Star to heat propellant, LH2 in a thermal rocket for cislunar transportation? Heat is very useful as well as electrical energy for ISRU and in space manufacturing.
Yes, it is. He's right.
So he said, have you looked at?
I'm sure Highland has, because he's taught probably more aerospace, space guys, PhDs than anyone I know. So I'm sure he has looked at it. But I don't know if he looked into that application. Each application, because he was inventing everything, I'm sure those applications need to be thorough reviews and analyzed and do the model simulation verification, which causes trade. Go ahead and go further. I have actually how we do this, how we make one. Go ahead. Let's go. Keep going.
Which one?
This doesn't work.
No.
Okay, keep going. Oh, keep cruising, baby. I'm gonna go down. Keep going. Okay, right here. Go down just one more and one more. Take this one. Yeah, these are important concerns. Okay, all of these have to be done. These are for space war and tactics. This is our buddy and oh, by the way, all our space warriors out there, hello, I'm your buddy Sean. And so anyway, this all has to be done properly. I know Paul's already got heads up on it. Next one.
Oh, next one.
Yeah, I needed people to know that these are the questions that'll be asked, and we have to answer the questions. So everything is systematically and logically linked with engineering science, not no BS. No, you don't need a mass. Yes, you do. Now you need 2 or 3. So here's where we are right now, SMF. Okay. These are our models when we do standard high-powered microwave evaluation right there. All of these in there explains what we have to do. Next one. Aha. Everything must be digital, period. That modeling and simulation with the hologram, digital modeling, this is how you do. How do you do 3-dimensional modeling and simulation? All of this right here. And this is how you do model-based systems engineering, this and this combined. And how do you answer all the questions? Right here. Real science, not theory. Next one. That's those things. Next one. We're gonna really blow people's minds now. I'm gonna go right into harmony and world peace. I know. Oh, by the way, my buddy here, my super lawyer Mike, can contest. I am not high. I'm on no drugs whatsoever. And next one. This is a dead guy. I thought this was funny as hell. Imagine having those guys on your mind all the time. Wouldn't that suck? So there you go. Are we? Right? So anyway, I think we should take this side. Next one. Oh, by the way, did you know that I always had one question? There was one question in the Bible I never could understand. One prior. Prior, not after, before. Pre. I never knew why. I go, and they were all working in unity and communicating super well together. Why would you condemn that, God? And this is what the answer is. Of course, it's pride, because they wanted to be like him and at that height. And they were on a mission from Nimrod or Nebuchadnezzar, one of the two. And anyway, they cared more for So what happened with the Tower of Babel? They cared more for the new technology, like everyone in software and hardware and technology. You got that World Economic Forum, which is a fraud of an organization, and the World Health Organization, a fraud of an organization. So they even bragged about COVID killing a lot of people. Can you imagine being in an organization that does that? So anyway, so when a person fell off and died, the temple, they didn't stop or mourn. But if a brick fell, oh my God, then they would have a funeral for it. Right? That's idolatry. That's idolatry in the right way. And it wasn't their time. So that. Oh, and by the way, what causes that? They cared more about new technology than they do people. What does that? Communism, socialism, and Democrats. That's what does that. Next one. Sorry if you're a Democrat. I didn't mean to piss on your parade, but I had to say it.
Yeah, and we have to clarify because AIAA doesn't want to get into political issues.
Yeah.
So we have to state that all the presentation doesn't represent opinion for AIAA or the Los Angeles section.
You got that, guys? This is not, AIAA does not endorse anything I'm saying about that, especially politics. We talk science.
Yeah,
so I just backed it up with science. So anyway, this question here, everyone needs to ask, if you're so Darwinism, make me one of these. That's a damn good question. You can go to the next question or next slide. All of this should be concerned about, right? We could do this, bring peace on earth, and be like this guy. Next one, lack of food, right? Go on, no more politics or no more religion, right? We got to be John Lennon in this place. And this is how we go throughout the planet. And I love what he said. And this is definitely a fact. Woke is a phony state of awareness sought by failures seeking to find injustice in everything but their own behavior. And we are, oh, and my buddy, God bless his soul, Nabil Qureshi wrote this great book. He's a fourth generation big time Muslim. And he was going for his doctorate degree at Harvard. And he was, hardcore Muslim. And he was talking to another guy, which was an atheist, and they had an argument. And he wrote a book because he went to the factual evidence and found that in 30 years, less than a decade, like 30 years from the death of Christ, all these documents prove exactly what happened. So it's Jesus walked on earth. Vatican can back me up 100% that they have evidence of that exact date and that. So this Good Friday is the negative 10 years of 2,000 years ago that we murdered him. So anyway, and he's got the facts. Now, the first writings of Muhammad was over 150 years after. So it was already misconstrued. It wasn't near the source of the actual evidence. Very good book to read. We became pals up until, his family, he had a baby. His family never forgave him, which means they have no repentance in their soul. They never forgave him and never seen their own grandkid. And he passed on from cancer quickly, and that was it. So anyway, good man. And we're done.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good presentation.
Thank you, guys.
Great presentation. Appreciate it.
And if I offended you, I didn't mean to. I had to say this because it has to be said. And you need to look at, I have the guy, I'll put the person's name in the video of that tsunami coming at us in 11 days.
Yeah, I think links will be good.
Oh, yeah. So if you want to cut from Space Force, here you go.
Thank you. For folks online,
Thanks, guys.
Sorry you don't have the cup, but if you really love the cup, please let us know. So thank you so much again for joining us for today's presentation. It's a good study and good concept. So open to discussion and freedom of express. Even though AIAA doesn't, endorse any of the view from any of the speakers, and but it's a platform for people to express their study concept. So if you're interested, please contact the speakers, and we welcome discussion and look for more science and technology. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Yes, thank